Hey guys, Johnny Discgolf here for the first episode of Ask Upper Park. I am super excited to be joined this episode by Mr. Nate Perkins, Andrew Presnell, and Tim Barham. Guys, it is going to be fun, but I think the winner for the most fun background goes to Nate Perkins. What are we looking at back there? That is sweet.
What's up, Corey? Thanks for hosting us today.
hmm
I'm in my van, so this is my little tiny home. We're looking at behind me are a couple pieces of artwork that I just put up in the van. So we'll take a closer look here. Little YouTube channel that I like. There's my bed, my
Yeah, that
plants.
is.
So
Yeah,
tiny home life.
I know you ride pretty comfortably. The van is pretty dialed in at this point. But quick question, and I'm gonna jump to Tim on this one. We're coming out of the Texas swing into Arkansas. How did the past couple weeks go for you, and how's your game feeling moving into Arkansas?
So this one got directed to me. I actually am coming from North Carolina.
Ooh, okay. Tell me, what have you been up to?
I decided to go to Florida after Waco in chase of my USDGC spot, which I ended up getting. So well worth the trip.
Perfect.
From there, I went up to North Carolina for the first time, played some golf, and it was pretty cool. It reminded me a lot like Michigan.
hmm So that was not for tournament. That was like a little bit more casual, friendly play.
It was an A tier. It was
Okay, okay.
more or less something to play on the way over here.
hmm well, what tournament did you play in Florida? Tell me, and then how'd you finish? You said you locked up the USCGC spot, so you finished well.
Yes, I played Throw Down the Mountain, an A tier. It had five USDGC spots,
hmm
which actually I ended up taking in a playoff. That Terry Miller film that you could probably find on YouTube. Pretty exciting.
Perfect. Yeah, the disc golf guy. Check it out. I actually I didn't watch the whole tournament, but I did watch a little bit of it. That course is one of my favorites in the country. Let's move it over to Andrew. What have you been up to these past couple weeks, and how you feeling coming into this weekend?
So after Belton, I ended up driving back home to Missouri, and I played two B tiers the same weekend as Texas State's up in St. Louis, and I got two wins back to back days. So two B tier wins, and then this last weekend I played a B tier in Arkansas, kind of on the western part of the state, and I also won that one. So coming off of three B tier wins, and my game's feeling good.
Yeah, I'll say that's and that's something I've kind of heard about you is that maybe you'll skip a tour spot and go hit two or three B tiers on the way. Um, like, what does that do for your game? Do you think specifically coming into a big weekend? Does that build confidence?
Yeah, I think so. Anytime you can get a win, it builds confidence. And I played pretty well at all three tournaments. I was signed up for Texas State's, but I had car trouble.
Mm,
So I actually had to borrow a parent's car to go down and play Waco and Belton. And then my car was fixed. So I felt like I needed to get back and return my parents' car and pick mine up. And I didn't want to drive all the way back down to Texas. So I just stayed and played those St. Louis tournaments.
sure. Um, Nate, I just asked these two guys how they've been doing the past couple weeks, and I think it's four wins combined between the two of them. You've got a lot to like live up to now. Like, how has your last couple weeks been?
Yeah, I definitely haven't been racking up wins, but I feel Corey just like that. I'm winning at the game of life. I just got to spend about a week and a half in one of my favorite towns in the United States, and that's Austin, Texas. And so we played the Lone Star Classic there this past weekend.
hmm
30,000 added cash B tier, so one of the highest paying B tiers of all time. And
hmm
I worked with GK Pro on the coverage there. I commentated the coverage, so it was a pleasure to join them on the project, and they're really really killing the post production game right now. So really cool to be a part of that. I commentated with Bradley Williams, so
I
that
heard
was
a
a
little
new
bit of that.
experience for me. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit? What was that experience like? With Bradley, because I've seen him on the course, but I don't know that I've ever heard him like speak for long periods of time. What was that like?
Yeah. Yeah, so Brad's actually one of my really close friends, and one of my disc golf mentors for sure. He helped me in a critical time period in my career when I first started playing in 2014,
Mm,
2015. So we were pretty close then. And when I hit the tour, I was kind of expecting him to come with me, but our friendship is still maintained over the years. And
Okay.
he's a student of the game. He knows as much about the mechanics of disc golf as anybody out there. And so when I got him to come out of his shell a little bit, he was giving us some incredible breakdowns. And yeah, it was really a pleasure to commentate with him.
Yeah, and I saw bits of the footage. I didn't watch, every throw, but it sounded good, and always love to hear you on commentary. I've done commentary with you a couple times. It's always a pleasure to have you in the booth. Let's jump into a few of these questions from our community here. This one is from Adam Gase. I don't think it's that former Jets head coach, Adam Gase, but this one's directed at Tim Barham. Since you've been touring the country extensively for some years, do you miss like the more local Michigan tour scene? And let's leave it at that. Do you miss kind of like playing in those local digs?
Yeah, I think we all pretty much miss home. I mean, I think it's natural.
Fair.
We miss our friends and family. As far as the play there, I miss that too. It's more my style of what I'm used to originally.
Mm-hmm.
The tight wooded areas. Tour in Michigan is more or less just summertime, and Michigan in the summer is one of the best places to be. I mean, of course, the other times of the year you might not want to be there, but
sure,
I do miss it. I enjoy being on the road more. Also,
mm-hmm.
Obviously, being able to do what we do and see what we see, and play all these new courses everywhere all the time. Definitely overlaps the missing home.
Yeah, no question. So you mentioned that you were in North Carolina just a bit ago, and that reminded you of playing those home courses. Could you talk about those parallels? Like, was it just the fact that it was in the woods?
It wasn't. I mean, it's not just the fact that it's in the woods. A little bit shorter holes. It wasn't stretched out. It more or less was a tier, not less the Pro Tour layout. So
Sure.
Everything wasn't sort of stretched out into a little bit of a bigger layout.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the average hole for the week in North Carolina was roughly around 330 feet.
Okay.
So that's also what reminds me of Michigan, not just the tight wooded shots, but a little bit shorter holes and using more discs than just my drivers and often.
Gotcha. Is that something that, and I'm going to kind of open it up to the other side of my Zoom call here. Andrew, is that something you'd like to see maybe more in the pro scene, is holes and courses that aren't just like driver, off the tee pretty much every hole? Or is that like maybe what you think pro disc golf like should move more into?
I kind of think that's what makes the Pro Tour unique. Where I come from, it's a lot of like 200 to 350 foot holes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like when I go out on the Pro Tour, I'm playing these pro level courses. It's long, it's challenging, there's out of bounds. So that's my opinion. I just come from a part where I don't really have a pro level course near me. And so I kind of like the pro style courses, how they're set up, drivers, and you're playing good par fours and par fives and good mixture of open and wooded, and
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Let's go to this then. We're talking about courses a little bit. Nate, this is a question that was for all three of us, but I'll have you kick it off. What are some of your favorite courses? This one says your favorite course on tour and why. I mean, I could give you three in my top one type of deal, so maybe a couple of your favorite, but what are some of your favorite courses on tour?
Yeah, so the first course that immediately comes to mind is Brewster Ridge at the Smuggler's Notch Resort up in Vermont. It could partly be because we're there every September and the leaves are starting to change and it's just like it's pristine up there. But just the way that they take care of the course and the layout of the land up there, you playing on mountain bike trails on a pretty steep little green mountain up there. So it's a special place. We played the 2018 World Championships there where Greg Barsby won. So I would say Brewster Ridge up in Vermont is my number one.
How about you, Presnell? What's your number one?
My number one is Maple Hill up in Massachusetts.
Yep.
I think it's got a great mixture of, you get to throw some bombs, and then there's also some wooded holes that you got to be precise on. And I think it's my favorite place to play all year.
Yeah, I always say that Maple Hill kind of is the biggest combination of technical and distance on tour. Like the best example of it. And so Smugs and Maple Hill are two of my top three. Tim, what's your top?
Man, they kind of took the good ones. I'm definitely agreeing with Nate as being my absolute favorite. Smugs is just the atmosphere in general is just such a great time every year. But if I had to go with something different other than that and Maple Hill, I'm gonna say maybe the Idlewild course.
Sure. Okay. Beautiful. So clearly we have a style of golf that our panel here likes, and that's pretty tight, pretty wooded, but very difficult. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it too, all of those are like straight up hikes, right? They're like an experience. And that's what I love almost most about Upper Park bags, truthfully, is that it doubles. It feels like you have like a piece of hiking gear on while you're playing. Tim, what kind of led to the decision to carry the Upper Park bag? Like, what do you like about the Upper Park bag, maybe as opposed to other bags?
To me, when I first seen it, it was a little bit different. I've been seeing it in the past years on different players' backs, and I was thinking, oh, that thing's kind of cool looking, but never really looked too much into it. When I got the call and the opportunity, I did some research, looked at a bunch of stuff, talked to some friends, and I like that they were kind of different than the other companies.
Sure.
The bag looks a little bit different. The way that the different bags that they have and the way that they hold the discs isn't like other bags. And the variation of their bags, the trainer, I think is awesome. I love using that. The styles that they have with the smaller bags and the pockets, the zippers, the material, I just like that. It didn't, with no hate towards anything else, it didn't look like the standard grip style bag. And that's what I've been.
Go ahead, finish.
That I just been used to that standard style bag for so long that it was nice to get something else on my back that was a little less wide for me and still just as comfortable.
No, I totally feel you. It's funny that you mentioned the thing about it being wide because like I have a Octothorpe bag. I have had a grip bag in the past. It feels like I'm the like small little second grader with a giant backpack on at times. You know what I mean? And I think the Upper Park does a good job at like fighting that battle, right? It's not so wide that like it's like a gigantic freaking pack mule. But what about you, Andrew? Is there anything like that stood out about the bag, or maybe even the company, or anything like that made you consider the switch?
So I had never used an Upper Park bag before I signed. So before I signed, I talked with Jordan Castro a lot because he uses some Upper Park bags and he had really good things to say about them. And he was basically the one that convinced me to go for it. And so when I got my first shipment of the Rebel and the Shift, I think the first thing I noticed was how comfortable they were on my back. They felt really lightweight. I'm using the Rebel out on tour and I'm holding 26 discs, I think. And it's incredibly comfortable and lightweight. And I think that was the biggest thing that I noticed right off the bat, just how easy it was to haul it around through a course. And, you're not really exerting that amount of effort to carry a bag full of 26 discs and everything else you carry.
Yeah, no question. And Nate, I know you like specifically do enjoy yourself some like hiking and getting out into the woods and kind of like losing yourself a little bit out there. Is this bag like something you'd consider maybe taking as like a hiking equipment or something like that?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I feel like disc golfers kind of like have do that sometimes. I definitely will dump my discs out and throw my water bottles and my snacks in there and hike up a mountain and maybe leave the putters in top so we can throw them from the top or something. But and I can't think of the name right now. I'm totally not being a good representative. But the little bag with the
The pinch?
hydroplast in it.
Oh yeah, no, the
Yeah,
shift. The
pinch.
shift. No, the shift.
It's so sweet to be able to have discs and also have a liter of water in there. Like that's genius. No one else has done it before. And yeah, I think that there's a practical use for that, especially for the more, casual player that doesn't need 20, 25 discs, but it's cool to still jog a course or something during lunch and have that water there with you.
Yeah, I've almost completely shifted to, wow, no pun intended, but I've almost completely shifted to like a small bag player now. Like, especially at Golden Gate Park, that's my home course. I don't need 25 discs. You guys are on tour. There's some water around. You may lose a disc. I get it. But there's no lakes at Golden Gate Park. So the shift in that small bag thing is like really speaking to me, especially as like somebody with a little bit of like lower back pain at times. I'm editing hunched over all the time. So, speaking of a little bit of lower back pain, though, this is something that I think is, I don't know, moderately rampant in disc golf, and that's like overuse injuries, and specifically in the back, right? Because, and Tim, you're sitting in like the driver or probably the passenger seat of a car right now. We're in that position a lot. We're driving 10, 12 hours, going to a tournament, driving here, driving there. How do you guys, and I'll say, Andrew, let's start with you, specifically, like, how do you battle that? How do you stay physically fit? Like, I know Germ had a gnarly bout with sciatica for a long time. How do you avoid those injuries?
I'm playing like every weekend, so I guess maybe I'm never taking too much time off where my body would, I guess, stiffen up or, I'm playing probably 6 days a week, so my body, I feel like once I get out of that, the off season, time off, once I'm back into it, my body is, used to going 6 days a week. And I think coming from an athletic background with college athletics and, being pretty active growing up, my body is used to, taking that kind of, I don't want to say like punishment, but just being active, most of the week. And yeah, luckily I really haven't had like muscle injuries in my career. But I had a foot injury at the beginning of last year, but I'm working through that. So,
what about you, Tim? Are you like operating on raw, unadulterated youth like Andrew is here, or are you like taking steps to battle it?
Man, I wish. I do agree with him on the portion of once we get back out of our off-season body, it does become easier.
Okay.
That's just for all of us. And nowadays it's a lot more preventative thing, taking care of ourselves more. I'm sure all of us, at least the three of us, I'm sure, are doing a lot more as far as off course things. We're taking care of our body. We're likely watching what we're eating. I know I am. The other things along are just more sports equipment. We all use rollers quite frequently.
Sure.
Those impulse guns, I tend to use those anytime there's one nearby. Those work great. Just stuff like that. You just try to take care of yourself, because we are out here exerting ourselves, going through the car rides, the wherever we may be sleeping. It's not always a comfy bed at home, so it's always different. Stretching, obviously, and just trying to keep up and take care of.
What about you, Nate? I know we have Disc Golf Strong, Seth Muncy. At this point, he's like staffed with the tour, so he's going to be around a lot. How do you like battle injuries?
Yeah, Seth has definitely changed the way that I kind of approach warming up for disc golf, and I think that has helped, just the preventative aspect of taking my body a little bit more serious before I just hop out of the van and just start ripping shots on hole one. And disc golfers are really good at doing that, just because it's not that violent of a throw. Disc golf in general is not that violent, but you do it over and over and over again without any preventative maintenance, and that's when you get the injury. So Seth with Disc Golf Strong has definitely helped me, and just taking my body a little bit more serious. And I really don't mess around with my sleep. I get 8 hours of sleep every night. Disc golf has really kind of forced me to do that, really, because I want to play for so long. So
yeah,
forced me to take a better look at myself.
Yeah, you're not kidding, man. It's so funny that you mentioned disc golfers are like so good at just getting out and starting to rip, and
Yeah.
that is like maybe the truest statement that we've said so far today. Let's talk about each of your games a little bit, okay? And I've got a question here for Andrew, and this one's from Markham out in San Francisco. You've got like obviously top tier backhand game, but we almost never see you throw flicks or sidearms. Is that like how did it come to that to where you're almost all backhand? And B, is that something that maybe you plan on implementing anytime in the future?
So I don't throw forehands a lot because one, it hurts my elbow if I get out into a field and practice a whole bunch. And so I don't have those reps built up where I feel comfortable in a tournament yet where I can throw them. But I think I've done it enough the last 2 years. I've really set a goal in the off season to get better at them.
Mm-hmm.
So when I've had to use them this year and last year, I feel like they've been successful for what I consider a successful forehand to be.
Sure.
I don't have a lot of distance, but if I need a 250-foot approach where a backhand is not doable, I have a lot more confidence these last 2 seasons that I can at least give myself an opportunity to get up and down. But it's something that I really want to continue working on and hopefully, implement where I'd be just as comfortable with a forehand off a tee than I would a backhand. But I know that's a lot of work to be done. So,
speaking of a lot of work that's been done, Nate Perkins, when I first kind of met you and started hanging out with you, it was almost all sidearms, especially off the tee. And I think I remember the story of you setting a course record at the Beast in Waco with only sidearms. You've put in a lot of work and you throw a lot of backhands now. Is that something that you was like, specifically in your mind, I need to be more well-rounded? Is that like because you're hanging out with James Conrad all the time and you can't have him just like busting up on you all the time? Or what went into that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really, it was just hitting the road and playing the big tournaments. I realized really quick that having a forehand only game, not only was it like it was cool back home in Texas at the smaller events to be able to win an event with one shot, but then it really wasn't something that I wanted to stick. I didn't want to be the forehand only guy, and then just be missing my holes that are 400-foot backhand hyzers. So I realized real quick that the backhand is the premium shot in disc golf, and having a good forehand can supplement that game. So I rallied pretty quick, and I learned from some great players. Nico and Greg Barsby showed me the ropes in 2016. And of course, playing with James really teaches me a lot, about angle control, nose angle control. So, but it's still a work in progress for me, Corey. I don't really feel like I learned the right hand backhand drive with the best footwork mechanics, and so I'm still kind of stuck in that limbo space, 400 to 450, when a lot of the tour is comfortably throwing 500 feet. So there's not really a day that goes by that I don't think about working on my backhand distance shots, for sure.
No, and I appreciate that, the amount of effort and work that, and intention that you've put into that, man, because I feel like a lot of people kind of go out it and they can play pretty good, but they don't necessarily put in the hours in the field to develop the other half, in that regard. Tim, my question for you is, your putt is one of the most I guess actually, Nate, you're in here too. And actually, geez Louise, these are all 3 spin putters now that I'm like looking at all of you, but your putt is extremely spinny and very aggressive. Was there ever a moment in your disc golf career where like that was an issue, where you're blowing by the basket and taking big numbers, or like did the confidence come with the putt type of deal?
This is something that I've actually thought about recently, and unfortunately, it's more or less the opposite. When I was younger, I was a pretty fearless putter for sure, and I used to make an awful lot of putts. I feel like nowadays things are getting. I'm not quite. I don't zing there as like I used to.
Yep.
A little bit more touch on it, a little bit more pace control, and and I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if I'm not really nervous of comebacks. It's just I think it just sort of comes with the nature of playing these events and how the greens are changing in the game. I think being afraid of rollaways and stuff of that nature has making me to kind of come off the pace of my putt a little bit for sure over the years.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, kind of a follow up to that. Do you find that, like, playing at these huge tournaments where every stroke matters, so or every stroke can matter so significantly, do you think that has maybe played effect in like the mindset of like, oh, I'll blow up by into the hazard and it'll be all chill?
Oh, certainly. Our sport is at a whole new level where each throw is huge. It can mean so much to us, especially at the level we play. I mean, each stroke is a lot, and we know out there what can happen in every lie. Mm-hmm. So nerves are real, and the more you know, the harder it can be sometimes. I don't know if that's why it just seems so much harder these days, like to just get it in there. I feel like just because I don't know if it's because of all those strokes mean so much or what, but it's a confidence thing for sure is what it all comes down to.
Yeah. So this question is maybe a little bit more existential and doesn't really have a correct answer, but I want to hear each of your guys' opinions on this. And this is this question's from Harper in San Francisco. He asks, what's the biggest difference between 980 rated players and 1010? And then similarly, the difference between 1010 and like 1040, 1050. Nate, you want to kick this one off if you have, something off the top of your head?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. And the biggest difference between a 980 rated player and a 1010 rated player, in my experience, is not the skill set. It's not the ability to throw 400 feet both ways and make putts. It's more so their mental approach to the game. And like Tim just said, it's all about confidence. I've met so many 970 to 1,000 rated guys that throw the disc extremely well, better than me even. And yet I know in my heart that I'm going to beat them every time. And that's all because of my capacity for golf up here in my mind. And that means a lot of things, but it does boil all back down to the confidence. Now, the difference between a 1010 rated player and, a 1040, 1050 rated player, I think that there is a significant difference in the skill set there. I think that those 2-3 strokes a game they do come from the difference between throwing 500 feet up the fairway at a Pro Tour and throwing 400 feet up the fairway at a Pro Tour event. Especially because all these top rated players are playing at the top level, and rating is only relative to the field that you're playing in, right? So if you're 1050, you're playing the top events, you've got a leg up on the 1,000 and the 1010 rated guys. And I don't think it's just up here in the head anymore. It's definitely like they're throwing further with more accuracy, and their putt just is better over time,
Mm-hmm. Let's shoot over to Andrew, and if you have anything different to add to that, please do. But like the follow up is, what can a 980 player do? Like maybe action items. What can they actually do to maybe push towards that 1010 rating?
I think Nate answered that first part really well. So I'll just move on to the second part. I would say definitely learning a course that you're about to play in a tournament and then know how to play golf on it, which holes to attack and which not. Like in my experience playing in Missouri, there's a lot of, 970 rated players at these B tiers, and they're pretty good, but every now and then they're going to have a blow up hole where they take a triple bogey. And, somebody like me who, I don't want to say I don't bogey a lot of holes, so I'm gaining strokes when they're making mistakes, and so I feel like that's something, if you're stuck in that 970 range, you know, learning how to play golf and maybe not attack a hole you're not comfortable with, because that's when you're going to, you know, take that double or triple bogey that's, you know, costing you 30 rating points around.
Mm-hmm. And then Tim, kind of the last on this topic, like the 1010 to 1040 range. Like, I know you're not quite at that 1040 mark yet, but what for you was the difference between getting from like 1,000 rated 1010, you know, competent professional, to like where you're at now? I think aren't you in like the mid 1020s at this point? Maybe even 1030?
I'm down a little bit right now. I'm at 1017.
Okay. The
But
question remains though.
I sort of consider myself in the 1020 area, that range. But what I agree with everything the first two guys said for sure on those questions. Only thing I would add to Presnell's, for a player who wants to improve kind of quickly or whatever, I would say to do anything you can to play with players that are better than you. And that was how I gained my most, was when I started playing with other pros in the area when I was in it. So that's another big way of boosting, along with what Presnell said. And as far as what was the question again?
Like your own personal journey from, like, you know, 1,000 rated, beating up on all the local Michigan guys, to like 1020 rated, you know, touring pro. Like, what did you do to like make that jump? I guess maybe other than just straight up grinding it out and playing golf all the time.
Okay. That one's a little bit harder. For me, it was more or less just the getting out there and the experience. The first couple of years out there, obviously always hard. It's your first time doing pretty much everything. It's hard to be comfortable. It's the nerves, it's the everything. But once you're out there and you're doing it for so long, obviously things get better. You pick things up from other players, like, without even realizing it. The more you see, the more you learn, and the more you're out here, the more comfortable you get. I would say maybe a good answer would be I've put on a little bit of distance on my backhand. The more or less along the lines of what Nate was talking about, between the 400 and the 500 areas with the shots. That always helps for when you're on tour. Distance will always help your game. So working in the field, putting on a little bit of distance, and just becoming more comfortable with the time that I put out here.
No, so true, man. And it's funny that it's such an advantage to come back to a tournament, especially on the pro scene, year after year after year, compared to that first year on tour, where you're kind of just like learning everything and just figuring out like where you're even staying, and then getting to the course and figuring it all out. So I totally feel you about the getting comfortable and just being able to breathe a little bit in what you're doing, you know, not only on the course, but like in life and everywhere else. Let's back off the more serious topics. Last couple questions to round it out. A little bit lighter. Let's go reverse it. Let's go, Tim. What is your personal favorite ace? It could be like the hardest hole you've ever aced, or the most emotionally just like, yes. What was your favorite ace you've ever had?
I'm not sure if I've had an absolute favorite. I haven't had anything super cool or significant as far as aces go. One thing that pops into my head was or two things pop into my head, actually. They're both tournaments back at home in Michigan. One of them, I ended up getting an ace on the last hole, so it was like a walk-off ace for the victory, and that was awesome. I remember being super happy about that. And the other one was at a tournament that was being held. It was the first tournament ever at the course. They just installed it. So the whole idea of the tournament was like course record shootout was the name of it.
Oh, that's cool.
It was a nearby my hometown also. So I was able to play it beforehand. I went out there. I got a portion of money for winning the event. I got a portion of money for the course record. And then I hit an ace on one of the holes also and got that portion of money. So those are probably two of like my favorite aces, I guess.
All right, that's a good one. That's quite a lucrative one at the end there. Andrew.
Yeah, that was a big day.
Yeah, Andrew, same question.
I think you know this answer because I think you filmed it. You know, Las Vegas in 2019, I got an ace on hole 10 at the factory course. filmed on Central Coast, and I think 2 or 3 days later it ended up on Sports Center. So I thought that was I don't think anything I ever do as far as the aces go will top that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that ace made me, the ace pot was like $1,900, but I had to split it, so it was like a $900 ace, something close to that. So yeah,
Wow.
it was pretty good for what.
Yeah, so we actually, out at Golden Gate, this past weekly, this is a small aside, then I'll get to you, Nate. We had our record-setting weekly league ever, 170 players Sunday morning, because the ace pot was at like $1,340. It ended up getting hit twice. They split it, but it was like, there was like 3 weeks in a row where we set record again, because it just kept building. I didn't hit it, or else I would have said I would, obviously. But Nate, what's your favorite ace?
Yeah, so I remember my favorite ace vividly. I aced a hole playing by myself at Roy G, and I was telling all my friends about it, that I had aced this hole yesterday, and they were like, yeah, whatever, Nate, like, whatever, dude, you didn't ace the hole,
Yeah.
And we step up to hole 13 out at Roy G, and I'm like, I aced this hole yesterday, and they're like, whatever. And I aced it again right in front of all them with a boss on like a 330-foot hole, and they couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, and I sprinted down and I got it, and it was just a magical moment, because they definitely did not believe me that I got a hole-in-one the day before, and I definitely dunked it. So
Wow.
It was cool.
Oh man, those are honestly all three great answers. Shouts to John Hammond out in San Francisco for that question. That's a good one. Last thing that I want to know from each of you, and let's go to Andrew first. I want to know your dream card, and this is nothing personal to the guys on camera. If they're not on it, it's totally fine. But if you could set up a card at, not even at a tournament, right? This is the day before a tournament, like practice round, so it's not competing. Who's your foursome? You and 3 others.
Okay, I'll go Paul Macbeth, because he's going to attract a crowd, and I like playing for crowds. Probably Chris Clemens, the guy I tour with. He's always fun to play with. And then I'm going to say a local guy. He's actually playing Vintage Open this week, but his name's JP Finney. I always somehow end up on his cards at hometown tournaments, and I always shred when he's on my card.
Oh.
So I guess put him on the card, so I'll shred.
No, that's so good, and I appreciate you saying someone that isn't on the pro scene, because that's a big factor for me. It's 2 of the people on it are James Proctor and my buddy Greg out here at San Francisco, because them 2 going back and forth just is hilarious to me. Tim, what's your dream card?
I definitely got to throw my old tour partners back in Michigan right now, John Perry. Having him out there always makes everything great, and I just can't imagine having more fun. Other than that, can I throw a caddy in there?
Sure. It's a support staff now in a COVID rules,
Okay.
but yes,
Support
there you go.
Staff. My buddy Tony back in Michigan, and shoot, I mean, now that I say that, I feel like I'm leaving so many others out. But
Yeah.
who else would I like on that card? Let's go with Bob Julio, who is our team manager.
Okay.
I don't get to play with him very much often anymore, but it's always fun. We get to go back and forth with the talking out there, and it's a great time. And then the 4th player, let's put in, who is one of my big inspirations. Oh man, I really enjoy playing with Michael Johansson.
Ooh, good choice.
I would love to have him on that card also.
So I was out in North Carolina after the Tour Championship last year and had the pleasure to be shown around MJ's like pseudo home course, Brackett's Bluff, out there in North Carolina, and it was like top moments for me all time of disc golf. So great choice. Also, company man, all Discraft players. I think John Perry is still Discraft, right?
He is as well.
That's convenient that you did that.
I honestly didn't even realize that I'd done that, and now shoot.
No, it's a good representation.
It might be the hardest question. There's so many great players out there.
It's true. All right, so same question to Nate. Let's round it out.
All right, I got you. So I'm going to go with James Conrad, one of my closest friends. He's my brother at this point. And I'm gonna go Paige Pierce, and then I'm gonna go Simon Lizotte. Yeah, he keeps it light, but he also throws like some of the sickest lines you can see. Yeah. And also, I just miss him. You know,
yeah.
I think the rest of the disc golf world misses him. So looking forward to having that guy back. But yeah, that'd be my dream card.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it, dude. And I will say, the more you talk about you and James being closer and brother-like, I'm noticing the back of your head, Nate, is very James Conrad-like as well at this point. When is that? Was that like conscious, or did James's hair just creep up one night and implant itself on you?
That's hilarious. Yeah. I stopped cutting my hair when I hit the road for tour. And then, it kind of became a thing. I didn't really even know that I could grow hair like this. So, a year after growing the hair, and then, it just became a thing. And now I love my hair, and now I definitely love, the similarity, the comparisons that I get with James. So I'll take it for sure.
Yeah, dude, you don't have to say anything to me about like a hairstyle gone awry, okay? Because I know all about what you're talking about. At this point, it's like, oh God, I'm in.
Yeah, for sure, Corey.
Well, guys, that's all I've got for this episode of Ask Upper Park. I really appreciate you all for coming on. Thanks, Tim, Nate, and Andrew. This first episode went super smooth. I can't wait to do more. That's all for this episode. Make sure to stay tuned for Upper Park Disc Golf for all sorts of cool media going forward.